are potting up a tomato from a small pot to a big pot. And I will also go through how I fertilized this little guy and how I grew it initially, from which different stages, and in the next episode we will talk about how to pollinate. Hello! Welcome to How to Grow a Garden. I am Scarlett. Today I am potting up my tomatoes, or at least one of my potatoes. Now, this guy I have potted up a few times. I started him from seed. So far I've started absolutely everything in the garden from seed this year. So I started him in a little grow disc similar to this one. This one's already swollen because I used it for an example and I never actually planted a seed in it. But you stick the seed in and pinch it closed and keep it nice and moist for a few days. Keep it on some heat because tomatoes grow when it's nice and warm. From there, when it was about 2 inches tall, I potted it up again into something like this, which is a biodegradable little pot. And I believe this is a 2-inch at the top, 2-inch pot. And then I let that grow until it was about this high, or 5 or 6 inches. And then I took 3 of them and I pot them into here. So if I back up, you can see how tall. Now, every time I repot a tomato, you always want to put the tomato at the very bottom of the pot. That's really important. So this stem goes all the way down to the very bottom, and then I put all the dirt around it. Now, there are a few things to note when growing tomatoes and considering the date or how long they're going to take. If you grow a tomato outside and you start it in May, mid to late May, and you give it lots of sun and 8 or more hours every day right from the get-go, you're going to have tomatoes that grow really, really fast. If you grow them inside, so back in January, February, March, they're going to grow slower because you're using like indoor lighting, or you're using sunlight that's coming through the window. Both of those are not going to compare in any way, shape, or form to the actual sun. No matter what, real sun is going to be best. Also, the temperature. If you grow them on a grow mat, they're going to germinate quickly and they're going to grow up faster. If, on the other hand, you grow them outside in a cold frame, they will be warm and they'll get a lot of sun, but they'll be stunted. I can show you that. I have some really beautiful ones growing outside, and they're still pretty short because they're getting tons of sun, so they don't have that urge to stretch. But I think once I take the glass off and I put them into the ground, they're going to really go crazy and start growing. In order to get my concession planting going, what I did is I did start them all on the same day, but going from my little grow disc into the initial pot, I did that. I plopped one in there the first day, once they were 2 inches tall, and then about 2 weeks later, I did the second one, and 2 weeks after that, I did the third one. So that means that because it immediately had more space, if you leave them in these guys, they're going to stunt the growth. They're going to stay really tiny. So by putting it in here, it grew. So this one literally it grew. It's thicker, it's taller, it's got more leaves, it's just all around bigger. They were all started the same day, but this one is then up to this height, whereas this guy is way down here. So now they're in here, and I can tell by what's going on in the bottom that they are definitely root bound. And when I pull them out, I'm sure you're going to see it too. There's a lot of root bound going on there. So I'm going to pot this from that one into this one. Okay? And now obviously you could take this outside and you can put it right in the garden. Today is our last frost date, which is pretty exciting. But I don't want to do that because I want to keep this little guy growing inside as long as I can, and I want to get some more going. I have a few more plants that are still small, and once this guy is done, I'll replace him with the next. So my objective here is to try to get these tomatoes to grow all year long. And all year long means everything possibly except December and January. It is a determinate plant, so it is not going to grow crazy or grow wild. It's only going to have so many leaves. By not taking it outside except to harden it off on a few days here and there, I'm going to avoid blight, so that will be pretty cool too. Now, because of course it will be inside, it won't be outside where it will have access to blight that's just generally floating around on the, out on the wind. So another tidbit or an interesting little detail is that when you touch your tomatoes, when you just pass over them, brush them lightly, that actually releases a hormone within the leaves, telling the plant to become stronger. So touching your plants is a really, really good thing. And that goes for just about everything you're growing, unless you're growing something that's poisonous. I mean, who wants to grow poison ivy or poison oak or all those things? But, if you're growing something that's poisonous, well, maybe you should rethink that. Otherwise, you want to touch your plants. Also, giving them a little shake, anything you can do that just gives them, something like being outside in the wind. It's not going to be as much as if they were outside. They would get much, much stronger because they have that constant wind and constant movement, which makes them stronger. But this is still the same. It's going to help when you touch your plants. And it's really good too because you can also check if you've got anything yellow, you can remove it. Taking that extra moment to really look at your plants and, spend a little time with them. People like to say it's all about talking. Talk to your plants. Well, I don't think the plants really care if you make noise when you touch them. But it's more that you're close up and personal with your plants, that you're able to notice. You can take a moment and see, are there any bugs on the back of the leaves? Is there anything yellow? Is there anything green? Perhaps the leaves are turning yellow, but the stems are still green, which means you need magnesium. Or maybe it's wilting, it needs water. Maybe, it's hungry, it needs fertilizer. And you can get that when you really take a moment to look at your plants. You can also see if you've got any soil on your leaves. So if you had watered and some of the soil had got them, that's really, really bad. You want to keep that soil off your leaves as much as possible because anything like that is going to cause blight. And of course, indoors or outdoors, you don't want blight. All right, so what I want to do here is I've got a pot. Now this pot, of course, has a hole in the bottom. Way down there. It's got a little bit of soil in there, but that's fine. I'm just going to keep going with that. So there's a hole in the bottom here. And what I want to do is take a little piece, this is a bottom, this is just a tray. I actually prefer not to use this one, but because I'm running out, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to put it in this way to cover the hole. And what that's going to do is your hole is here, it's going to give it a little cap so the soil doesn't go through, but the water can. It's also going to raise the bottom of my plant just a tiny bit up off the ground, only this much. So my plant is going to be sitting up here, and then there'll be a little bit of space for a tiny pool of water to form at the bottom without the plant actually sitting in it. Now I've put in a little bit of soil in here, and that's just to make sure that the edges where that little upside down tray is, that's all covered in dirt too. I don't want any air pockets underneath. Now I'm going to put my hands in like this, and then I'm going to turn it over. So it's actually very simple, and this is the same method when you're doing, just about anything. Just put your hands in here so you can hold the soil, turn it over, and here I've got a pot already on this side too. I'm just going to push it through and hope that it works, and there we go. So now I might have to get a different angle. There we go. All right, so here we can see I've already got a pot here too, a little pot tray. So I want to pull that out. Of course, we don't need that in this one. And I've got lots and lots of roots going on here. So you want to tease your roots out a bit. Now, don't go crazy. You don't really need to yank and tug and rip and pull. It's just a little tomato. But it is nice for the little tomato if you just pull these out a little bit so they're not going in circles. If you want, you can actually remove them. That's also okay. That will promote more growth. Just don't remove all of them. So I'm just going to pull out a few. Get the root bound so that the roots are loose and they're going to go in all directions and not just go around and around and around. Okay, once your plant looks something like this, we're just going to slip it right in. All right, now you are going to fill this up. You want to fill it up with soil, but we do not want to bury any leaves. That is very, very important. So, there we go. Okay, so use a sharp pair of scissors. Now this one is specific for seedlings and chopping things off, and it's really cute. It's just a little shears. So you want to just snip them off. You can also use your hands, but I like using something nice and sharp to make sure that I don't rip anything. Okay. So I want to remove all the leaves on the bottom. Don't worry, even though it is a determinate plant and it's not going to produce too many leaves, you'll be perfectly fine. You want to remove them anyway. And I'm also going to kind of break this apart a little bit, just so it's not quite so clumped up. Break the three, and I think I'm going to move them separately so they're all against the edge a little bit more, giving them a tiny bit more space. Now, how are we doing? The leaves are all high enough. I'm just going to put some dirt in and fill it back up. Now I'm using potting soil. This is everyday normal potting soil. You don't want to use dirt, the dusty brown kind of dirt from the garden. You want to use something that's got humus, something that's full of broken down finished compost, the black gold. But don't worry if it's really, really fine or if it's chunky. The ratio doesn't matter so much. You just want to give it something good. Also, I don't pay any attention whatsoever when buying soil to how infused it is. So if the soil has been infused with food and nutrients, all that good stuff, I don't care. I don't care for two reasons. First of all, I'm going to fertilize on my own. And secondly, I don't know what they infused it with. Did they use, ground down chicken feet and chicken beaks? Because that's just not cool. Did they use chicken manure? Fine. Was it organic? I don't know. Are they using seaweed or bat poopings or guano? So I have no way of knowing what they have enriched it with unless it actually says on the package. But there's a good chance it's not organic. Of course, if you do want to go with organic, it's going to be really expensive. Now, growing like this and growing organically and just fertilizing at home is really, really, really easy. I do have a series I'm working on for that too, so I will bring that to you guys really soon, show you how I fertilize in all the different methods. If you have ducks, if you have rabbits, if you have a pond, if you don't, if you make compost tea and all that good stuff, how you can do it. So I want to get the soil off of these leaves because that's never good. Maybe I'll use a brush. I'm going to fill it up a little more. Now right now it's about 2 inches down and I think that is not enough. I want to give it about an inch from the top, so about where my rim is. That's where I'd like my soil to be, giving my plants as much soil as they possibly can have. Because I don't have all the soil in here, I can go ahead and feed them. So this is ground up and mushed literally in a designated blender just for this project. This is ground up rabbit droppings, and I've let them sit in here with some water. It's probably been sitting for about 2-3 weeks. Now it comes apart, so the liquid on top is really awesome for seedlings or anything delicate. The stuff on the bottom is also great if you want to give it to something bigger like a large plant. I could either just pour off the top, or I could shake the whole thing, mix it with some water and put it in. I could also put it into a little throwaway tea bag and then do it that way, put that in my water. But what I like to do is once it's sat, is just give it a good mix. Make sure the lid is really tight. And I have to tell you guys, this stuff reeks. Okay, so give it a good mix, pour it in here. Man, does that ever reek. Okay, but that's going to really, really feed these guys. It's going to give them a lot to go with. Now, I need to get a tiny bit more soil, so hold on for a second. I want to make sure that I've buried the fertilizer in this case because it is just so intense. There we go. So it's about 2 inches from the top. Now I will go ahead and water it normally. Okay. Okay, so why you want to water the plant? Now, I know that sounds like a really silly question, but it's not. It's always good to water your plants before you take them out of the pot initially because that will make the roots happier, so they're less likely to go into transplant shock when you move them. But you want to water after you've done everything so that if there's any holes or spaces or gaps, the water will bring the soil down and it'll all compact a little bit, and you'll make sure that there's no more holes underneath and all around your plants. I'm also just going to ferment it a tiny bit, and then I'm good to go. Now this guy is just going to go back on my little tea table in front of the window in the kitchen, and once everything is dry, then I think if there are still tiny bits of soil, I might take a brush, which I have my pollinating brush, of course, but that's way too tiny, and I would just brush the little bits of soil off of the leaves. So I'm gonna have to get a bigger brush, so that's too tiny. Okay, so our little tomato is all happily potted up and ready to go. I'm gonna put it back on my tea table in the kitchen by the window, and it's gonna get some nice good sun for today. It's got lots of water down the bottom. It's been fertilized, so it's gonna grow really well. And the next episode related to tomatoes is going to be how to pollinate the tiny little flowers, because unless I take them outside, even for a few hours, the bees might come and pollinate it, but there's a good chance they won't, and I do want to grow it inside, so we're going to have to tackle the pollinating problem when there are no bees. So January, February, March, of course there are no bees, and that will be in the next part in the playlist. So do check out my playlist, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. I am Scarlett. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and I will talk to you later. Toodaloo!